As the film story begins, we see a girl tied upside down from the table. Her feet were shaking badly. She was trying to scream in pain, but her voice was not coming out of her mouth. Upon seeing, it was found that someone had injured her mouth. There were huge wounds on the body, which 2 people were ensuring. Not because she needed treatment, but this was also a way to torture them. One injured the wounds of that poor girl, and the other damages her legs and stuck a needle in her wounds again and again. And in this way, the girl was given pain again and again. Now the scene is cut, and we are shown the time of 1609. At this time, Elizabeth Patriarch rules over the Kingdom of Hungary. Jenny was a woman. Her beauty, bravery, courage, and luck were discussed throughout the kingdom. All the girls considered her to be their role model. Whoever she selected to work in her castle, those girls were also considered very lucky. Similarly, today a girl named Lady Margaret has come to this castle, whom Elizabeth Patriarch herself has chosen as her personal assistant. This is why Lady Margaret herself and her family have started considering her very lucky. Lady Margaret is also from a royal bloodline, but financially her situation is not very good. Elizabeth's special maid Eva went to pick Lady Margaret herself from her house. Lady Margaret herself was very happy to come to the castle, and when she saw that Elizabeth herself had come down to welcome her, then there was no place for her happiness. And in this happiness and excitement, she did not even notice how strange everything around her was. Every girl working here is nervous, and everyone has fear in their eyes. There was a strange silence in this castle, and then a maid takes something from there and accidentally falls near her. When she fell, she panicked badly. Leaving her, Eva also panicked badly and quickly started collecting all those things with that maid. And while collecting these things, she was injured off by something sharp. Anyway, here Elizabeth herself holds Lady Margaret's hand and brings her inside the castle. Margaret had not yet come out of shock that the Queen Elizabeth she had heard stories about. Today she is in front of her and is treating her like a special guest. Although she has come here as a secretary, a servant, Queen Elizabeth also tells Margaret the story of this castle, which her husband had gifted her. When Queen Elizabeth got married, she was only 11 years old and was extremely beautiful. When the king was the bravest knight in the whole area of Hungary, that is, the bravest warrior, and because of this, she was given the example of her couple. But then God knows who cast an evil eye on her, and the king passed away from this world due to some disease. While talking about this, Queen Elizabeth was very emotional. That's why Eva brings Margaret to her room. This room was very big, very luxurious, where she tries to talk to Eva a lot. But the strange thing was that Eva was not answering any of her questions. She considered Lady Margaret special and considered herself ordinary. Then Lady Margaret says to her, "I do all the work in my own house, like a maid. So what's the difference between you and me?" Eva replies, "Whoever you are, your bloodline is royal, and I am from an ordinary family. Our friendship can never be." Anyway, here Margaret starts talking about Elizabeth. She starts praising her, how good she is, how much protocol she is giving, without noticing that Eva's expression is completely different from her words. Eva leaves the room without answering any questions, after which we see Eva with Queen Elizabeth. They were still talking about Lady Margaret. Queen Elizabeth was happy that Margaret is from a royal bloodline, and even better than that is that she is pure. What is the benefit of being from a pure or royal bloodline? We will find out later. After all this, Eva starts applying some face paint to the queen. It was like a red blusher. Eva first applied this blusher on one cheek of the queen, and before applying it on the other cheek, she was scared because her product was over. Eva, in fear, tells the queen that her product is over, so the queen goes crazy with anger. And while controlling her anger, Eva only says that I don't like this thing to end, and its supply is your responsibility. Now the queen doesn't do anything wrong. Eva, in fear, squeezes her hand, and the blood coming out of it is applied to the queen's face with a brush. which revealed to us that the liquid cream in the jar was also blood, and the queen was applying blood to her face. All this was very strange, but not for them. It all seemed normal to them. Even the queen applied the blood on her lips. In this scene, we see Lady Margaret having dinner with the queen. Lady Margaret was very surprised to see so much food, because her house was now very difficult to eat. Even her 2 sisters were sent to the convent so that their food expenses could be reduced. Here the queen also tells her to take care of Margaret's health, and orders her to use as much fruit and honey as possible, which is used to make blood and to purify it. Now the queen asks a maid to bring honey. When the maid offers Margaret honey, Margaret notices that she had deep wounds on her hand. When Margaret asked her how she got these wounds, she answered in fear that she got these wounds while working in the kitchen, and this confused Margaret. In the meantime, the queen called her dogs to meet Margaret. The dogs did not look like pets at all. They were behaving like wild dogs. Looking at those dogs, not only Margaret, but all the maids here were also scared. But the queen forces everyone here to feed those dogs with her own hands. Margaret was very happy in this castle, because she did not know what would happen to her in the future. She wanted to make friends with Eva here anyway. But Eva's first stubbornness was that she could not make friends with Margaret, because they are not equal. Anyway, after Eva's departure, Margaret goes to sleep, and in the middle of the night, she hears someone crying, about which she comes out and asks Eva. Then Eva says nothing. This castle is at the height of the mountain. So often the sound of the wind feels like this. You go and sleep. Despite Eva's satisfaction, Margaret felt something strange. That's why she took the light and went out for an investigation, and from where the sound of crying was coming, she started walking in that direction. The door through which the sound was coming was a terrace. As soon as Margaret started going inside the terrace, the guards stopped her, saying that it is forbidden to go there at this time, not to Margaret. But in the next scene, we are shown that on the other side of the terrace, a very bloodthirsty work was going on. A girl was tied with chains, and the hungry dogs were left on her. It can be seen that this whole scene is seen by the queen herself from above, and they are having a lot of fun watching this, which made us know that the queen was only there for her entertainment. That girl's life was in danger, and the queen did not do this for the first time. In fact, there has been a lot of such things in this castle before. As we saw in the first scene of the movie, a girl was being tortured by tying her to a table, and the queen was very happy to see this torture. And the one who was repeatedly pulling and injuring the girl's wounds, it was none other than Queen Elizabeth and her special maid Eva. And from this we can also guess that in every such crime of Queen Elizabeth, Eva is equally responsible. And from all these things, it seems that these people have brought Margaret for such a deep purpose. However, Margaret is completely unaware of this, and now she has started to consider Eva as her friend. When she sees a wound on Eva's hand, she immediately goes to her treatment. But then she saw that there were many more wounds on Eva's hand, some of which were septic, but there was an infection in those wounds, the treatment of which Lady Margaret did not know. That's why she tells Eva to go to the doctor. Eva does not answer, because she knew that Queen Elizabeth would never allow her to go to the doctor. But Margaret, who did not know about Queen Elizabeth's deep jail, she requests Queen Elizabeth to take Eva to the doctor, and the Queen agrees to keep her under the protection of goodness. Before going to the doctor, Margaret asks Eva that I have noticed that there is a deep wound on every maid's hand, foot, or anywhere here. How is it possible that she is all unwell and can injure herself? Eva had no answer to give her. She remained silent and moved on. Margaret had started to take care of Eva. Now Eva was also liking Margaret. In her heart, she was thinking that she could not do what she did with the rest of the people. She thinks of getting Margaret out of here at any cost. But she had to do all this secretly from Queen Elizabeth. Before she could make a plan, Queen Elizabeth orders her to bring Margaret. And listening to this, Eva goes crazy with fear, because she did not know that Queen Elizabeth would make Margaret her prey so soon. Thinking something, she goes to the Queen. And to save Margaret's life, she starts explaining to the Queen, and says that we can't do anything like this with Margaret, because Margaret is from a noble family. Undoubtedly, her financial condition is not good, but people know her. And if something happens to Margaret, her family will definitely question you. While talking to Eva, Queen Elizabeth tells her that you started all this. And now why are you afraid of all this? And we see that after the death of the king, the Queen was very sick because of grief. And her illness had eaten away at her beauty, and because of this, she decided to die. And then she came to Eva to take care of her. Eva motivated her. She took care of her, which made her health much better than before. But now there was also a problem with her beauty, which she had lost. And because of this ugliness, she started going into depression. And one day when Eva accidentally hurt her, pulling her hair while making her hair, so the Queen went crazy with anger, and picked up the thing she had and started hitting Eva. She hit Eva so much that her head burst and she started coming out, and bloodstains fell on the Queen's face. And as soon as the Queen turned to the mirror to clean those stains, so she started cleaning those stains. As soon as her old beauty is coming back because of this horn, this blood color on her face was just like her old glow. After realizing this, the Queen suddenly came out of depression, and she started using blood like a beauty product, whose supply Eva used to do for her, by torturing girls. And because of this blood, after a while, Elizabeth started looking more beautiful than before. Her beauty had come back. But to maintain this, now the Queen and Eva started hitting girls. Now the Queen believed that the more the girls are tortured while dying, their blood will be just as good for their beauty. Because of this, she used to torture the girls a lot. Every day, she started looking for new ways to kill and torture the girls. And slowly, all this became her hobby. Now Eva was trapped with the Queen. She wanted to save Margaret. But now it was the Queen's order to bring Margaret to the foreign room. Now, at the Queen's behest, Eva goes to Margaret. But to save Margaret, Eva tells her the whole truth, how they torture girls and take out their blood. She quickly gets out of this castle and tells the police the truth. It was all very strange. Margaret could not believe it at all. After hearing all these stories, Margaret got scared of Eva, and instead of listening to Eva and following her instructions, she started running away from Eva, and reached the same special room where the Queen was waiting. When Eva came here with Margaret, and she tortured her and put her royal blood on her face, and increased her beauty many times. After reaching here, Elizabeth catches Margaret, and to save Margaret, Eva kills herself. Neither she was able to save herself nor Margaret. Elizabeth tortures both of them as much as she could. They didn't want Eva. They tortured Eva only for their entertainment. And after all this torture, Eva also died with Margaret. Now she was shaking herself with Margaret's blood, without knowing that someone has run away from their castle. A girl who was brought here just like Margaret. She somehow finds out the truth of this castle, and she cleverly steals Queen Elizabeth's diary and runs away from this castle. In this diary, the Queen had written the names of all the girls she had hunted. After giving this diary to the police immediately caught Elizabeth. And after all this, the whole world found out the truth of Queen Elizabeth. For all her bad deeds, she was locked in her room, and all the doors and windows of her room were closed. Only this small door was left open, so that food could go inside. Even after staying here, the Queen didn't stop her addiction. She didn't stop making herself beautiful with her blood. Even if that blood is not hers now, she started torturing her Ealf and making herself beautiful, because she thought that now she will die and go to her husband, and she should be beautiful for him. Then a few years passed, and the Queen found people buried in her room. No one knows how she died, but everyone knows that this story is real. History still considers Queen Elizabeth of 1609 to be the most brutal queen, because for many years she was involved in serial killing, and in the end she was punished for it.